Hi friends, I'm Marilyn from tarotclarity.com, and today's video is in response to one of my viewers, one of my subscribers, Shelley Gibbons, who asked if I would do a review of the Medieval Scapini Tarot. Now, there's probably a million other videos of this because it's been around for a really long time, but I'm not one to say no to a subscriber who asks me, if I have a deck and if I would showcase it. I don't think I ever have in the past, so this is a first for me. The the edition I have is 1985 from U.S. Game Systems, of course. So the reason I'm pointing that out is I don't know if it's going to be, the same edition that you might be able to get now. It may be you may only be able to get a later edition, but I don't think it's probably changed all that much. The 1985 box has a little cutout in the cover, and I don't remember what card appeared in the center. The deck comes with a little white book, as most U.S. Game Systems Inc. decks do. And it goes on to say, aside from the divinatory meanings of each of the cards, it just goes in the beginning to indicate that the goal of the Scapini Tarot was to kind of recreate a deck that might have been created in the Renaissance, had they been more inclined to do pip cards in illustration. Now, we know that the only historic tarot deck that we're aware of that had all 78 cards illustrated was the Solabusca. So the fact that the 78 card deck is done in a Renaissance style, but that each of the pip cards is also illustrated. So let me flip the camera so we can look at the cards. I'll see you on the other side. So like most decks, it comes with a title card. And here are the backs. The backs are kind of like a gold brass kind of finish. It's actually a rather nice back. I don't know if they've changed the back or not. And this card goes on to describe Luigi Scapini, born in 46. A renowned artist. I know he did do some of the replacement cards for the Carriel deck, the Pierpont Morgan deck. The missing decks, I think, were the Tower and the Devil, and there may be one or two other cards. And so he decided to create a deck as though it were done in the 1500s, Italy. Now, bear in mind that every one of these cards, the pips included, have scenic illustrations on them. So it does vary from a more typical Italian deck from that period of time. The only exception that we know of is the Solabusca from the 1490s. So here we have the Fool, with the usual accoutrements of feathers in his hair, a club, a satchel, or a sack hanging. Interestingly, we see this, I think, suggested in some French decks where there's the mane of an animal that we can't make out if it's feline or canine, right? Where the mane, it looks like it's got a mane of gold. And so here, he has it represented as a little lion. And then, of course, we have the jagged cliff that we see in some of the Visconti decks, suggesting the location of their of their castle. I'm not sure if it was the Viscontis or the Sforza that had the castle. I think it was the Visconti. Now we do have the 0, which I don't think was very common in the Italian decks. And of course, an authentic Italian deck would have had the Italian words, but I think he was probably appealing to the English, the fact that we have it in English and with occultist terms. But this is very much in keeping with the magician of their Pierpont Morgan deck, the magician character in red at a table. Christina Dorsini, who is now the one who has taken over Il Meneghello's tarot workshop since the master has passed away. In her book, she indicated, or she suggests, that the magician is wearing fine clothing because perhaps he was serving cheese at a festive occasion at the castle, and so he couldn't look like a typical magician, mountebank. However, in this depiction of the magician, we don't have any indications that he's serving cheese at a party. He's got the what appears to be the symbols of the 4 suits. So there's a lot going on in this deck. Aside from the kind of ornate, border, inside, there's, this kind of thing that goes on. And then there's depictions on the base. So it's kind of a busy deck. Lots of little details to see. Again, the cliff and the castle. I've never done a review of this deck before, I guess because for me, it's not a historic deck in the sense that it's not really from, the 1500s Italy, and it's not really true to that time, since it's got English names and it's got the occultist names, and I guess the thing to keep in mind, if this was produced or created in 1985, I'm guessing that it was competing on the American market with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, right? And so the Rider-Waite-Smith deck in the American market at that period of time was the one that was most popular. There were very few people like myself who were in the States. I'm not talking about Europe, but there were very few people in the States, in the 70s and 80s, who were using anything other than Rider-Waite-Smith or one of their versions, So I'm thinking that he wanted to have the flavor of the Renaissance, but appeal more to the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition, even though I don't think the pictures in the pip cards necessarily depict that tradition, the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition, but it is what people were accustomed to, right? And look what we have going on in the Hermit. Wow. No, I haven't read that as a fact, but it's me kind of piecing things together based on my own understanding of that period of time. Wow, so when people, this guy's in flames, and when he falls, he'll get some relief in the water. And he does honor 11, fortitude being 11 rather than 8, so he does do that. But you see all the little details in this deck, which if your eyes are good, you can probably appreciate it more. I think for myself, aside from the 1 or 2 reasons I just mentioned, I think for myself it's too busy. You know, there's just a little bit too much going on. And, you know, I just don't use it because it's just too busy for me, I think, personally. But that doesn't mean it's not beautiful. And look at that. Now, I read, I wish I could remember. I read somewhere that one of these heads might be his. I guess maybe this one. I mean, there's no question that it's beautiful, and all the detail is remarkable. What a beautiful temperance card. But I think, you know, for me, it's just a little too ornate, like a little overstated, you know, with the border and then this stuff, you know. I guess, you know, I would like to see, you know, if there were going to be details like this, to have it be more pronounced and less sacrificed for, you know, all the space that the border takes. But I'm old and my eyes aren't great, so that could just be my own prejudice. But there's no question that the details are really, really amazing. And Shelby, I know I said that I was probably not going to be able to get to this until after my vacation, but I had a little bit of time today, and I thought I would get it done for you. So that's pretty. Yeah, I don't know. I might have to start using this deck. That's why I like when subscribers ask me, have you done a video on this or that deck? Sometimes it just makes me, it prompts me, you know, to pull out a deck that I haven't looked at in a while. And wow, look at that. And to revisit a deck. So it's good for me too. Look at that. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Dang. That's a beautiful card. And we're on to the suit of swords. One with a snake and the other with a, I don't know, is that a fox? I'm not sure what that is. So we see, even though this Three of Swords is illustrated, it's not necessarily regurgitating the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which I mentioned earlier was the more common deck in the United States at that period of time. So, you know, this is not regurgitating that. So I'm happy to see that in the pip cards, there's less sacrificed by the border, that the scene itself is bigger. It's only with the Triumph cards, or the that we have that the overstated borders, right? And the space, I think that the gold space, the gold background, that really competes with the imagery, and that's missing in the pips. Now, because I'm doing this before I go off on vacation, I haven't really read up on this deck. You know, the only comments I'm making are comments of my own observation at this stage, and also maybe from memory, you know, from something I might have read about it 15 years ago. And if I wasn't, you know, packing for vacation and all that, I probably have spent more time, you know, researching it, but I'm just winging this video. So I hope that's okay. There's so much going on. I think I remember reading in the Knight of Cups that this figure is of Rasputin, but I'm not positive, but I think that's what I recall. The aces are all lively. So that's got a little bit of a Rider-Waite-Smith or Waite-Coleman-Smith feel to it. So a few of them maybe do, but I don't think for the most part they do. It just seems to be its own system. So my 2 cents, I think, is just that there's too much going on, and the imagery for me is more of a distraction than than a recognizing the cards. Like if it didn't say 10 of Wands, I'd have no idea what I was looking at, And so for me, I like being able to look at the card and know what I'm looking at. And I don't think I particularly enjoy being, drawn into lots of little pieces. There's a few decks that are like that, and they work for a lot of people, and I have nothing against you if you love this deck because it's a beautiful deck, but I don't think for me it works as a that's interesting. As a deck that I would pull out and readily use because it's just so busy. And, some of the imagery is too small for my old eyes. But I love the aces. The aces are really, really cool. And I think this is the last suit, so. Well, that looks like a fun time. They're playing cards. And that also has a Waite-Coleman-Smith vibe for 10 coins. I think it's the Metelli that has a knight, exiting. We're seeing the back end of a knight it's either the Metelli or the Macchiati. I never remember which it is, but I think that it's one of them where we see a knight, like the back of a knight leaving. So there we have it. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and Shelby, I hope you enjoyed it especially. Until next time, friends, peace and stay well.